Hey y'all, it's me. I decided to go live because yesterday I really wanted to do a live regarding communication and trust and coping mechanisms and how we handle life when it's thrown at us. So it's beautiful, it's sunset here. I'm on the waterfront. I'm next to the water, so you're gonna hear the splashing. You're also gonna hear the sounds of not locusts, they're called cicadas, right? So let me know if you can hear me clearly in the comments, because there is a bit of wind, but I feel like it's okay because I kind of have a little drapery down here with this beautiful tree, and the sun is over here, it's glistening off the water. It really is a gorgeous day, evening. I don't know where you're at, where you're tuning in from, but I hope that you're safe and you're out of the path of this Hurricane Florence. Take that breath, take it deep, and really nourish your physical body, your mind, body, your soul. Mark your calendars. I'm doing a mindfulness in the moment workshop coming up on the 13th of October. I'm super excited about it because it's something that's, again, it's very dear to my heart. It's all about really working through things by being fully present. Because you are the gift when you're in the present. Think about that. How difficult is that for us to even recognize that we have value? And when we're present with ourselves, we can find that value. We can find the gifts and the blessings within ourselves, but it takes time to confront the demons, the shadows, the things that we dislike about ourselves. Sit with it and really accept it for what it is. It's not good or bad, you just accept it. You don't have to fix anything. You can allow things to move forward. You can, allow yourself to grow and evolve. That's the only way life is meant to unfold for us. As we need to show up the best we can as we are in the here and now, right? So Buddy's over here, he's hanging with me. He's been needing a walk, and I needed a walk to kind of move the body and get things flowing. I've been inside all day working on trying to organize a little bit more on the social media event coordination. Doesn't just look as easy as it is, but well, it may appear to be. So he's happy because we're out on the waterfront. He loves checking out his little spots. So here's what's been coming up. If you saw my video the other day, I really wanted to bring up anger because I know I'm not the only one. I'm seeing it around me. I'm seeing it in the way people are handling their driving, how they're showing up and just needing to talk and be heard. And so, it's coming in waves. Like the other day, I had this beautiful conversation with a couple ladies from the yoga studio, and we were just reflecting on the beauty and the blessings and the cosmic giggle. When life shows up and you just go, it's really not as serious as we make it out to be, right? We freak out because it's easier to freak out than to turn around and just relax. It's always worked out, so what makes us think it's not gonna work out this time? We think, it's gotta be this way. That's the perfectionism in us. That's that attachment, that addiction to wanting things when we want them, in the way we want them. If we don't get things in that box, we create our own suffering because we want that, and we make others suffer as a result, right? Have you ever had a conversation with somebody and because you didn't respond to them the way they wanted you to, they just totally went off on you and you're like, I'm sorry. My mom, and I'm having these tender moments when I'm reflecting upon this because this has been a lot of healing work that I've been working on for myself. It's about learning how to communicate properly so that people can trust you and your word and trust how you're going to be relayed and received, as well as how you yourself are received, right? It's a two-way street. Communication is not necessarily supposed to be one way, but a lot of times it is. Most of the times people are listening to react or respond. They're not listening to the message, not listening to the words. They're caught up over here somewhere else, right? So going back to my mom and what I was speaking on is that when I was growing up, my mother would very easily want an answer to a question. And my sisters and I kind of joked about this over the years. She'd ask a question that she'd say it's either yes or it's no. And my sisters would be like, we'd be like, wait a minute, Mom, but it isn't a simple yes or no answer. Sometimes there's a factor, a what if this or what if that. You know, you're asking me something that you want me to answer yes or no, but I can't give that to you. And it kind of caused a little bit of a traumatic trigger. And I don't know if any of you out there have ever dealt with this, but if you've had somebody kind of have a certain physical body language or tone to their voice, and it creates like this, it stirs something up within you, this fear, this uh-oh, I already know what's going to happen because I'm used to this. This has happened before in the past. Uh-oh, you don't know what to trust except for the fact that in the past maybe they got upset, raised their voice, their tone was directed at you like it was your fault, you know, didn't answer the way they wanted, and that's their attachment to the way they want things done. That instant gratification of, I want this and I want it now the way I want it. So my mother, she would get this physical body language, like she would just, you know, like really get annoyed if we didn't answer the questions the way she wanted them answered. And this was in various different ways. And it would freak us out, you know, as young children especially. She didn't know how to properly communicate. She didn't have the proper tools growing up. So what makes anyone think that, you know, that should be expected? And so as adults, we're trying to reprogram and clear up that old stuff. Whew. So my mom would just be like, let me repeat myself. And she'd raise the voice. And what is so difficult about a yes or a no response? Why can't you just say yes to this or no to this? And it would cause this physical fear to conjure up, like, oh my God, what's coming next? And it's scary as a child because it creates this trauma that we have to heal from. And so I've been sitting with a lot of this because there's various little things that I've been reflecting on with old communication styles of my parents that are unhealthy, and it doesn't help to just keep on reliving and trying to, you know, I don't know, empower or go with it and just, you know, no, it's enabling it. And so another thing, for example, my mom wasn't very patient, and she would have told you that anyway, but in her way, right? And my sister exhibits it sometimes too, to where literally she wants you to jump when she wants you to jump, and it's her anxiety, it's her depression, you know, all the stuff that she's going through in her head that nobody else can know, right? We don't know what someone else is dealing with on the inside, but it comes out in the way they respond, communicate, and their coping mechanisms. I'm not saying mine are better. I'm still trying to navigate the best way to communicate to the people I love the most. I want to hold people in a beautiful space of love, humor, let the seriousness, the anger, and all that junk go. And it's hard for people because that's all they know. And so when they're in that space, it's easy to spiral out of control and to want to argue or pick a fight, or that's what they look for because that's the pattern, and that it's a self-destruction. And I know it because I have had it, and I still sometimes it comes up, and I have to sit with it. I have to find a different outlet. You know, like I talked about the anger the other day. I have to physically move my body. I have to physically do something. I have to breathe, but I'm not going to take it out on someone else because I've learned it's not about the other person. It's about whatever's going on within me. And so my way of communicating to the ones I love is humor, is to look you in the eye, tell you how much I love you, I will feed you, I will cuddle you, I will hug you, it's touch. It's whatever I can do to let you know I appreciate you from my perspective, because that's all I know. I don't always know what somebody else needs or wants or expects, but I do the best I can from what I've learned and what I need for myself. And so usually, and I know everybody is like this, we come from a place of we know what we want, wish, and desire. So we extend that same to the people around us and the people we love. But we have different ways of communicating all of that, don't we? So my example is, give me a hug, cuddle with me, kiss me, hold me, tell me you love me, and it's not just telling. I'm really an action person because I have had over the course of my life a lot of talk, but no follow-up, or, the words don't always mean anything. And I read something that's very true. A reminder, when I'm going through my old journals and stuff, sometimes the intention is heard louder than the words could ever be spoken, right? And we feel it in our physical body, and we see it through the physical body of the other person, their behaviors. We don't even need words most of the time, you can see it. And so I try to be compassionate with everyone wherever they're at, because I know I wasn't allowed that a lot in my life. I didn't have somebody to grab onto me and go, I understand you're hurt, you have pain, and that you can let that go, and I'm here and I see you and I love you just the way you are. And that no matter what you're going through, I will listen. But, I would get so angry when I was, in different relationships. I'm using relationships as an example, but even with my family, that's really where it comes from, because all this stuff we learn in our family, in our home environment. Hi, Shayna. It's not something we have to hold on to. We can change it. And it takes conscious effort and awareness and trust, because trust starts with self. If we distrust another person, it's only because we don't trust ourselves. It's where we're at within ourselves. If I'm still working on communicating, I'm going to do the best I can and let those around me know that I will trust them, even sometimes when maybe I shouldn't. Life is really like a series of ebbs and flows, and we're being guided along the path all the way. And every situation and encounter that we come upon is really to ask us, have you learned the lesson? Are you going to show up in your old self, or are you going to create a new story and create a new self? Because the reality is we're here to be happy, not to be right, not to put people down, not to, be nasty, mean, or too serious. We're here to embrace one another and support one another. We want that for ourselves. Why wouldn't we want that for others? We want to feel safe. Why wouldn't we want others to feel safe? So why wouldn't we want others to feel loved if we ourselves want that? It's not rocket science, but this mind of ours will go off and tell you otherwise. It'll say, that person is a bad person. But that's probably because you've been told all your life that you might have been a bad person, right? And nobody's a bad person. We all deserve love, understanding, compassion, and truly kindness. If you want someone to speak lovingly and be patient and kind to you, you got to extend that as well. And if you can't do it, you need to know breathing, walking away. Because whatever comes up doesn't mean it needs to be projected or bombarded or attacked out on others. My mom, she would make so many promises, and this is one of the tender subjects that I was reflecting while I was walking. She would make so many promises of what she was going to help me with and do. And, each time I would extend the honoring of her saying, she's going to do this. And I disliked saying that she proved me right, because my subconscious remembered the pattern. And that's the unfortunate thing with people, is if we hold people in those old patterns, how are they ever going to grow, evolve, and prove that they can change and prove you wrong? So, for example, when I was living in Italy, she was supposed to help me with the situation where I lost my job. She was able to put me in touch with people, but they were unreliable and not helpful. And I have to say, in my life, I've been pretty blessed, because even the people who showed up who were unreliable, they've been helpful to some degree. I've learned a lot through it. But the majority of the time, my life has been very blessed. I'm very resourceful, and I always find a way. And I tend to find people who show up just when I need them. So And that's probably a gift of my mom's, because even in the time that I was growing up, I would watch. My mother would attract people who could help. Sometimes it was hard for her to accept the help because she had that the opposite belief, right? We have a enabling belief, and then we have a disenabling belief. She would say, nobody ever wants anything for free. So it was easy for her to say no, especially if it was a man offering, because she had been traumatized through her childhood. She had been abused and taken advantage of. To say, a man never wants anything for free is that she would say no just based on her old belief that he's going to expect something in return that maybe I'm not willing to give. And I think that's a cultural thing we need to shift. If somebody is genuinely offering to help you, and it doesn't hurt if you got to ask and be straight up and raw and real and say, hey dude, are you expecting something from me in return as a result? You know what? It doesn't hurt. In fact, that person is going to probably respect you more if you've got that gumption, that self-respect and worth to step up and say, hey, I really appreciate your help, but I want to know, are you going to be expecting something in return? And if you are, I'd like to know in advance so that I'm not given some delusion, right? Or having an illusion that this person is genuine. I think it's important. This is communication, right? Don't assume someone is out to get you. Don't assume anything, because you know what assuming does. It makes an ass out of you and me, right? It's really important to know how to trust yourself, because the people who are going to show up to you, if you're untrusting or unloving of yourself, they're going to show up to you untrusting and unloving to you. And I say this because I know in my past, if people showed up to me and I gave them the benefit of the doubt, but I felt that intuition bubbling and I didn't listen to it, that was about not trusting myself. So when they showed up, unfortunately, in an untrusting manner, they proved me right. But see, that's the ego. The ego likes to be right. Look at that. They showed up exactly the way you expected them to. So like I said, with my mother, when she was unable to show up quite a few times in my life, it would upset me, it would hurt me like in my heart in a way, but not even from myself. I actually had more sadness as I got older and wiser, I'll say, from my lesson of seeing the pattern. I was sadder because I noticed that what it was is that she couldn't even trust herself or rely upon herself, that she would extend it but couldn't live up to it, and she'd fall short. So she'd overcommit and underdeliver. And I don't know anybody out there who hasn't done that and felt that within themselves, like eat them from the inside out. I'm one of them. I know in my past, if I wanted to help someone and I wasn't able to fulfill or show up, I'm the hardest critic on myself. And I know I'm not the only one. So again, it's compassion, it's stepping into your courage to be straight up and communicate, and not passive aggressively. Because, like for example, there was this guy I used to work with when I was stationed in Omaha at my first duty station. He used to walk in late all the time. And you would watch him walk in, he would storm in like he was pissed off at the world, very unapproachable. See, now this is a passive aggressive behavior, right? So that you didn't approach him to confront him, and it didn't matter to me. I'm like, okay, things happen. I'm not worried about it. But when he did, and he had this behavior, it was more because he was upset with himself. And I understand that's what passive aggressivity is. It's, I'm mad at myself or the situation, and I've let myself down, so I'm beating myself up. And now I don't want anybody to tell me, because I'll get even more upset. So if I put on this mask, this coping mechanism, right? If I turn around and I'm unapproachable, nobody will bother me, and I'll have to deal with my own stuff and not everybody else too. Have you ever done that? I know I have in my past. And it doesn't make it better at all. In fact, it gives you more stress, right? For me, I've learned that it's really better if I am really upset for me to kind of go within. I I don't find it necessary if I'm in a certain space to try to have a conversation that is not going to be kind or understandable, or if I'm still processing what I'm going through, whatever's going on internally, the last thing I want to do is vomit it onto someone, or to get like cornered into, well, what's wrong, or let's talk about it. When a person says to you, I'm not in a space to communicate right now, that's actually setting a boundary, and that person knows themselves well enough to hold themselves and work through it, so that maybe later you can have the conversation and the dialogue is neutral. See, neutrality means nobody's reacting and responding. It means that one person speaks, the other actually listens with the intention to hear and understand, versus defend, argue, react, or respond. Because when you listen in those fashions, you're not hearing a darn thing. You're only hearing the things that are triggering you to come up with whatever you're going to say next. And this is the problem with communication, is most of the times we're not engaged fully. Communication has to do with being present in the moment, listening, not with the solution or the answers or the problems. And so I'm just as guilty as anybody else. I've been known to talk over someone, and sometimes it's because my own impatience pops up, because that's what that is. And I start going, bah, 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 because maybe, and see, I'm a quick thinker. Not everybody can keep up with me. My mom was like that. She'd say, you got to slow down. You're too quick for me sometimes. And it was more so over the past few years, since my mom had a brain injury. She had a head injury in the car. She had a car accident. That she really said to me, with compassion for herself, I really need you to take it down a notch and to slow down your communication with me, because I have a brain trauma and it is difficult for me. And that is huge. If somebody is aware and they're communicating that to you, it means taking that into consideration, honoring them, and holding them where they're at. It's important. You would need it and want it for yourself, especially if you're struggling. If somebody is struggling, you got to hold that other person. You don't expect them to just take it as it comes, because that's just how you are. In fact, I tell you what, over the years, I used to say, hey, if people can't accept me, that's fine. I don't care. But I do care. Who am I kidding? Everybody cares. Just saying that is saying you care. Even recognizing that somebody might not like the way that you respond or communicate is showing you care, because you notice it. And again, the awareness of it gives you the opportunity to make the change when you see it. And so communication is really about listening to yourself speak, because that's why you're speaking. You're speaking for yourself. And to listen to yourself sometimes means also sitting with yourself. Most of the times in my past, I didn't want to sit still. That's why I had to move my body, because I know that meant going in and confronting those demons and that crap, right? So I'm still working on it. I mean, coping mechanisms, some of mine are, I will walk away now, and I'll say I'm just not in a space to talk, because it's important to know where you're at. And that's a compassionate and loving gift you give another person, or anyone that you're dealing with in your life. My sisters, for example, my poor dad, I feel bad for him, because he said that he feels like they're mad at him and they haven't reached out to him. And I think part of it is because when my mom passed, he started to feel this whole mortality issue coming up. Like, he's our last parent. We're all he has. And he's seen his cousins die, and his, family members on my grandmother's side, and then my mom, and it's like, whoa, this is like life. I'm gonna die. Like, that comes up. And so my sisters aren't in a space to speak to him right now. And of course he's upset at that, and I get it. And I'm sorry, Dad, if you're watching this. I don't mean to speak about you, but I love you so much. I think you're the best example for this right now. That just because they're not ready to speak to somebody, it's not about you. It's really about what they're going through. And having lost our mother, my sisters are still handling it. I mean, there isn't a day go by that something doesn't pop up. And while I'm doing this declutter challenge, I'm going through my stuff and finding all sorts of cards and notes and books, tapes and VHSs that my mom had sent me. Clippings and this and that, some of which I can get rid of, but you know, I've got tapes with her voice on it that I've got to listen to now. And so these are things that come up. And you've got to find the space and the time to really hone in and honor what it is you need, and not expect that others are going to give or do it for you. Not a lot of us learned growing up the best way to communicate, right? I know I didn't. It was always about yelling, being the last one heard, not even listening. We didn't learn how to listen. How many of you out there were taught to listen? Truly listen. I mean, it's only been over the years that I've really started to listen. And I can listen like, gosh, even I'm kind of shocked at how much I can listen sometimes. And it's not always easy, because then there are times when you got to discern, even if you listen, whether or not the person is being enabled in their story, if you're actually serving them, or they're sucking you into their story, because that happens. And so that's part of trust. You have to trust your intuition. You have to trust how and when to walk away and not get caught up in it all. So this is enough. I've got to go back home and get some food in me. I don't know if I'm even going to eat. I'm kind of in that space where, honestly, I've been just reflecting on these coping mechanisms and these patterns of behavior that don't serve. And I'm working hard to I want to change them. I want to be in that loving space that I just explained. I am that happy-go-lucky. I might look like I'm, you know, all giddy and goofy, and I really am. But I sometimes have to sit and be with my stuff and get serious and confront it. I'm doing some serious shadow work right now, you all. And whether you want to call it shadow work, I am going deep lately. I'm like really got some stuff coming up that, yeah, it's some powerful stuff. And I don't expect, nor do I want anybody to try to understand it, but to just be compassionate and understand they don't have to fix me. They just hold me, and if I need to talk, to listen. Because sometimes I need someone to listen to. I have my girlfriends, which I'm grateful for. It's just a matter of taking time. So I love you all. I hope you have an awesome evening. Again, October 13th, mindfulness in the moment, being the gift in the present. It's a Saturday, 1:30 to 3:30 at Yoga Village in Clearwater. We're gonna rock this and really, really just hone in. I love you all.